Just some basic housekeeping. As you guys know, every one of these events is recorded. So just be aware of that, and they're posted to our SADAC YouTube channel, where if your power cuts or whatever happens, you can go back and watch that. For these interview series, this is a collaborative project between SADAC and Pixelsmith Studios, and our goal is to expose people to awesome women in our animation industry, specifically from the South African side of things, and to present to you more varied roles. Very often when you have women in animation programs, you've just got animators and directors. We're broadening that a bit. So we've had studio founders. We've got Celeste today, who is an Annie Award-winning animator and a lecturer in the States. And we're going to have some cool guests coming up in the future. So yeah, stay tuned. One more thing to note. So the main event is going to be happening on Magma Studio. I will be streaming it. There will be a link posted in a moment. I will post it in the events chat. So you can follow that link and draw on the canvas with us while we have the conversation, or you can watch the stream if you cannot join. We will be taking questions. Neil will be in chat over here, and he will read out your questions. So if you have anything, don't hesitate to ask. You're also welcome to unmute and ask. And yeah, just have fun and enjoy. Okay, I'm going to start the recording now. And I'm going to start. Let's post our link in events. Okay. Everyone. Okay, so Celeste, welcome. I don't know if you want to start by introducing yourself.
Yes. Firstly, I just want to double check with the link. I just saw it said the link that you posted says join the voice channel.
Damn it, wrong one. Wrong link. Okay, hang on. Copy. Here we go. Try that again.
It's just taking a second, but I'm sure it'll be in a
good.
moment. But yeah, otherwise we can get started talking. So hi, I am Celeste Jamneck. I am currently a professor in animation at SCAD in Atlanta. I teach story and concept. I teach a bit of animation. I generally get students to pitch their concepts for senior film and grad students for pitching their senior thesis. And then other than that, I studied for 9 years. I did a fine art degree in Montreal in Canada for 4 years, and then I did my my diploma in animation at the animation school in Johannesburg. And then I worked at Triggerfish for a small while, and then got into Gobelins, and I got the Netflix scholarship. And then I went to study at Gobelins for 2 years, and then did about, I would say, 9 months more freelance before I finally got the job here in Atlanta. So that's been my journey so far. I'm still actually, even though I've got so much studying, I'm still quite young in the industry. So I've still got a lot to go, which I'm excited for.
Okay. I was actually curious, everyone has their sort of like entry in. We've heard just a very basic insight into your journey, but what drew you to animation in the first place?
I mean, I grew up on it. I'm an only child, and my parents would go, visit friends and just put the Jungle Book on repeat. And I watched Jungle Book. I grew up on Disney and Don Bluth, both of those. And I've always wanted to do animation, and I would have gone into animation as my primary study from the get-go, except that my parents didn't think that it's a real sorry, I'm just signing in here. It's a real sort of degree, job. So they said, do fine art first, because it could be a foundation in case you change your mind. So you could decide to go into photography or decide to go into architecture or something if you're not sure about animation. So they said go into foundation studies. And then I after that I finished and I got good grades and everything, and I said to my parents, well, I did what you guys said, but I still want to go into animation, and then kept going in that way. I've always doodled in my books. I had teachers in high school commissioning me to do caricatures of them. So yeah, it's never not been a thing.
So would you say then that like the Jungle Book was like one of your first love animations, or was it just something you were forced to watch?
It wasn't that I was forced to watch it. I loved it. I would lie upside down on the couch and do the Mowgli nose thing, and then just speak all the words at the same time. I knew the whole script basically off by heart. I loved Dumbo a lot. But honestly, any animation, I thought that live action was boring and awful. And then I would, anything. So I remember specifically Thumbelina, Fern Gully, and yeah, the Disney classics, especially I guess Dumbo and Jungle Book.
Okay, so you seem to really like you have a penchant for the more animal focused things.
It seems that way now that you point it out.
The sounds of things.
Sorry.
Yeah, so then just out of curiosity, you said you from your journey in South Africa, you then got into Gobelins. Like, was Gobelin always on your books to do, or was it something you happened upon? And then like is it something that you really wanted to do, and how did you get into the school itself?
So I didn't know that Gobelin existed until I went to the animation school in Johannesburg. I knew Martin's, the principal, knows it very well, and they have a relationship with Gobelin, and I kind of got to know them through the animation school, and they had a summer school that they did, and they still do them in June, July, and I'm sorry if anyone's have cats running around. And basically I decided, okay, I want to go for the summer school because that sounds really fun. I could see what Gobelin is like if it's really something that I want to do. And I got accepted. I got to go to Paris for 2 weeks, did the whole thing, and I was just absolutely blown away. We had a talk by Alfonso Cuarón about gravity, even though he directed the third Harry Potter, right? So, and he then talked about Gravity, which is also his other film, and it was just like I suddenly had access to the greats. I suddenly had access to people. We had talks from people from Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar. The one guy who did a talk as well, who was actually our teacher for the 2 weeks at Gobelin, was the lead animator in Penguins of Madagascar, and also did animated the dragon in the 7th Harry Potter movie. And they were so accessible. They were just people, and they were just easily accessible to Gobelin. So I knew that I really wanted to go to Gobelin. My only battle was that I'd studied for so long already that it felt that it would be more studies. And I wanted to get work experience. That was really important for me. That's why I went to Triggerfish first. And I really enjoyed doing that. But then when the opportunity came around to apply to Gobelin, and the animation school had said that they had a scholarship going, I was like, it is an opportunity of a lifetime and it's not worth missing out on. So I applied. I saw what would happen, and then I got in and I got the scholarship, and I said, now I get that opportunity and I get to do it. So yeah.
Was it hard getting into the school? Because I imagine, being someone that's just heard about the school, I mean, hearing about it in animation school and then going straight out of it, that's a big leap to take, moving overseas, taking your whole life with you. Was the adjustment difficult?
Yeah. So it is really tough to get in. And if you'll just give me a second, I'm just really trying to get into this art space.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I posted the wrong link, so try the new one.
Okay, I think I'm in it now. Okay. Oh, there's my Seth.
I had to draw him. I usually do little doodles for people. Seth is the bestest boy.
Awesome. That's so cool. This is such a cool thing. Thank you. All right, cool. So I just want to make the brush a bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so what was the question?
Was the adjustment, basically, was the culture shock a big thing, and was it hard moving overseas?
Yeah, so and getting into Gobelin was tough too. So, for me, I was lucky in a lot of ways, but also my work did back up that I could do it, that I could go. I had done a lot of study for a long time, and I could have gone straight from an art background, and so instead of doing the animation school's diploma first, I could have gone straight from there to Gobelin, but I don't think I would have been accepted. So the extra study definitely helps. And it was tough. More than anything, what was tough was sort of the interview to get in was really stressful. But at the end of the day, what did really help me as well is having gone to Gobelin, having to understand what it's like, and then having met Cecile, who comes to the Cape Town International Animation Festival often, and I got to meet her as well, and she's the international coordinator. And they're not just looking for talent, but they're also looking for students who have had interesting life experiences and who are like great to work with. So they want people who can, who are not I don't know, assholes or jerks or whatnot, but not that anyone is, but they are looking for nice, good people to join in and who are passionate about animation to do that. So I got in on that. And then moving overseas, I mean, I was lucky in that my parents had sent me off to live in Canada on my own at 19, and that I'd gone to boarding school as well.
That's
so
crazy,
I have been sort of on my own for very long, and it wasn't scary for me. It was really fun. I loved every minute of it. I love moving to a new country. I've done it again now. I'm comfortable with that, but I think for someone who maybe has never left South Africa, or who has not, who is kind of afraid of it, what's really lovely about Gobelins and where it's set up and where you will get an apartment is that it's all very central to Paris, and you get so much just culture. It's almost a bit of a safety bubble in a sense. There's obviously unsafe areas, or like any other city.
yeah.
But and the culture shock is more a language shock than a culture shock. You have to really just up a little bit on your French. But it's so lovely. There's nothing not lovely about it. Everyone is so nice. In the summer, people dance in the streets and play music, and there's always music and always the smell of toast and bakeries and coffee shops, and it's really just, there's a lot of energy, and it's not a place to be afraid of to go. I know of a lot of places that are frightening and sort of scary to go to, but France and Paris is definitely not one of them. So yeah, that's what I would say. But yeah, I have been lucky enough to be able to travel that I'm fairly comfortable with it. So I can't really speak to people's own sort of experience on that.
Oh, I guess I could add to that with I had to go do some training some years ago at Gobelins as well. And for me, the biggest culture shock was just the difference in attitude between how people there behave versus South Africans are a lot more outgoing than the French, but it was a big difference, the fact that you could go walking at like 4 o'clock in the morning and no one's going to bother you. That was really pleasant. But I think more than anything was just the diversity there really, really surprised me as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the other thing that, and you say that now, and it's totally true. South Africans are also super friendly. I remember in South Africa, when you say hello, you say, hi, how are you, right? It's like, hi, how are you doing? I'm good. How are you? Okay, then we move on with our day. But in France, don't. You just say hello. You don't say, hi, how are you? Or, which is like, bonjour, ça va? So you don't say to a stranger. They will literally stare at you like, what do you want?
Yeah, you're going to sell me something.
Yeah, it's like you don't get to say, ça va. Like, don't ask, how are you? It's very strange. But yeah, no, otherwise than that, I mean, and also the other idea is that the French can be rude, and there is, always that case where they can be rude if you are not respecting French as a language, or you yourself are not sort of being polite, then they can be that. But what I have found is that the French were extremely kind and friendly, and helpful in all areas, and are understanding if you struggle to speak French, and will speak English as much as they can as well to help you along. So you're never truly lost in any way. Yeah.
No, I must say that was also like just that stereotype of French people being rude was also very much challenged down there. Just as a quick pause, for those that do want to join the drawing, you can either check the chat for the link, or you can go from events. I've posted the correct link now, so you should be able to follow through with that. Okay. Let me just gather my brain a bit. Okay. I also wanted to ask, just based on your own observations, what is the major difference in how animation is taught here at home versus Canada versus Gobelins? Did you notice anything majorly different?
Yeah, I think in South Africa, we're still trying to catch up a little. So a lot of the learning that I got in the animation school, and was very valid because I had no idea about 3D animation, especially, and also the concept of animation. It's very sort of, let's try and get things to work and look animated, which is great. But then you get places like Gobelins, and it's a bit different now here in Atlanta as well. But Gobelins specifically says, you figure out the technical stuff, learn the program, spend extra time figuring everything out. But what we're going to teach you is story. And what we're going to teach you is emotional connection and having something that is different and artistic and changes the world. Whereas, in South Africa, we're still mostly thinking about first of all, we do talk about African voices and African stories, which is important, but specifically story teaching isn't as strong. It's mostly trying to figure out how to get things to work and to get made, which is valid. But that is the experience that you get at Gobelins, that they really focus on story. And then at SCAD, I'm bringing in more of that story element as well, because it's also a case of learning how to make a film, which is important, but I'm trying to get more of that program in of understanding story, the importance of story, the importance of trying to say something that is meaningful, and how to tell it in a way that is tell it in a way that is appealing to an audience who want to watch it, that's entertaining, and then is also just good and makes sense. I can't speak specifically to Canada, because in Canada I learned, I was doing fine art, and it was very conceptual, and I actually feel that Canada probably is the same way about animation in a lot of ways as well, which is just, what do you want to say, who, what's important to you, what's your message? And I, at 20 years old, I didn't know, and I think that's also the case in South Africa as well. At 20 years old, and even now it's got, people don't know what they want to say, because your only experience is your childhood. So it's really great in your early 20s to be learning all the programs, all the software and the systems and the structure and how story works, and then you'll figure out what you really want to say when you've gone through life a little bit more and you've figured out some stuff.
On that a bit, do you have any advice for those looking to get into animation and wanting to improve, like from the get-go, having had these experiences, where do you think people could put a lot of focus to improve fast?
It depends on what you want to improve, but there's two tracks in animation, and one is creative and one is more technical. So if you want to be technical and rigging is interesting to you and programming is interesting to you, and you think that being a VFX artist would be awesome, make fire, make cool stuff, that is absolutely an alleyway that is amazing and awesome to pursue. And there is creativity in it, but your main focus will be tech. So you should be tinkering up until the early hours of the morning, tinkering with programs, experimenting, playing with things, understanding how the back end of programs work. And that is really where your strength's going to come. And then the artistic will sort of come later when you have mastery of the programs. If you have a more creative side and you want to either animate or you want to design, firstly, spend a lot of time watching films, spend a lot of time looking at other artists' stuff. I spend hours on Instagram, where I shouldn't be, but I do. But I'm looking at other artists' stuff all the time, and I'll save their stuff and I'll screenshot it and I'll say, oh my goodness, I'll go and try something that I've seen someone do, and on many occasions that's influenced how I draw things. And then besides that as well, I've brought in 15 minutes of life drawing a day into my classes, because it's not really a structure, and it's not a structure in a lot of schools. But you should be having a sketchbook attached to your hip, and you should be practicing how to draw hands and how to draw feet and how to draw faces and how to draw body parts and how to draw, and not just human, but animal as well, or environment sketches. Observational environment sketches are incredibly important. Learning how to put down a horizon line, figuring out the perspective grid, especially from life, is really challenging. But if you want to improve really, really fast and a lot more than your peers, then that's definitely a way to go. That'll be very helpful.
On that note, for those that are interested, there is, for those that are in Joburg at least, sorry guys, we're working on Cape Town stuff and like all around, and Durban. Shannon, I hear you. But there is the Joburg Urban Sketches, and they have monthly meetups where you can walk around the city with a bunch of older and retired artists. They're not in the animation field, but all they do is observational drawings on location, and they're really, really great to join. Again, guys, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with the links or why they're not working. It's a bummer. What does the user settings do? No, that doesn't. I don't know why I can't seem to add people. Like, I see you guys here, it says you're offline. And I've tried adding users. I don't know what's going on. You've reached. Oh no, I can only add 5 people via this link. Okay, sorry guys, I'm gonna try and just create a new canvas or a new drawing. How do I do that? Because it's only nice when everyone can join. I'm so sorry, this is so disruptive.
Do what you gotta do, we're fine.
They've changed things, and now I don't know what to do anymore. New canvas. There we go. All right, let's just invite people. Copy. Okay, guys. So it seems that you get art boards and you get just normal canvases. We were on an art board. Okay, problem solved, I hope. Just see if you guys can hop on and we'll just doodle over here. Which means I'm just going to be sneaky and I'm going to just grab what we already have. And
did you put the link in the events?
I put it in the chat, but I will put it back in events as well. Here we go. Oh no, damn it, now that's the drawing.
That's fine.
Where did I put the damn link? Okay,
you just copy and paste layers.
Oh.
So you can go one at a time if you really want.
Damn. No, I'm good. I'm just gonna take the whole thing. It is the lazy way and it is the right way. Honestly, guys, like, if you can get it done efficiently, just do that rather. Okay, all right, we're back. We're here. We're mentally prepared. I hope. Okay, cool. All right. So I also wanted to ask, now that you've had the opportunity to teach as well, and you've got insights into, what people have been doing and where they can go, do you have any advice apart from gesture drawing, what artists who possibly can't afford tertiary education could do to, access the industry or at least improve themselves to a point that, they would have an appealing portfolio?
Oh, man. I have spent hours and hours and hours on YouTube because coming into teaching, you learn very quickly how much you don't know. And that you need to teach this now to students, specific things or elements. I mean, these are 10-week classes and I do 4 of them a quarter. So, and they range from different things. And I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know everything. And pretty much most of what I teach is available on YouTube. Really it is. And if you at least have an internet connection and you can open up YouTube and try a couple of the videos there's some incredible stuff on intro to drawing, different learning techniques, what helps you improve quickly. And everything ranges on there. Obviously, if you're getting into higher tier stuff, then having really a much cheaper accessible education like Skillshare or Udemy or Domestika, who sell courses. I just bought a character design course for $10 that looks incredible, and I'm super excited to get into it. But it's the real benefit that tertiary study gives you is structure. It gives you structure and it gives you people to team up with, which is great and very useful and important, but you don't need it. You absolutely can get all the information that you need on YouTube. I would get a mentor if you can, who can at least give you guidance on what to look at and what not to look at, what to watch and what is actually maybe wasting your time, because a mentor might have a better idea of, because there are some videos out there. There are some character design videos that I don't necessarily agree with, that I think are taking some wrong approaches. So it's useful to have someone's eye on it. Or find someone. I actually have, and I'm happy to share it, I have a teaching playlist on YouTube of all the videos so far that I've curated that I think are useful, and happy to share that. And just knowing, and I'll not put in the videos that I think are not worth it, but really there's everything. I have videos on there from all the way from character design, from just drawing, how to draw solid form and shape, all the way through to how to composite. And I don't go into the technical stuff much, but I know that there's a lot of stuff available on tech things as well. So I think the only time that you have to worry about not succeeding on YouTube is once you've gotten so good that you've hit a wall of saying, okay, I kind of know everything that I need to know from YouTube. Then by that point, you can probably start earning money on what you've done. And then you probably then pay for higher end courses if you want to, but you really can get it all there.
Okay. Thank you. If you do have those links, absolutely, please do drop them. SADAC also has a playlist for handy channels to learn from, so I'll plug them in there. That would be great.
Yeah, actually, I'll drop it right now as we chat.
Based off of mentorship, it's not always easy to find a mentor, but sometimes it is possible to find a community. So I wanted to know, were there any communities or groups you engaged with or met during your studies in France or abroad that you would think, you know, if we created something like that here, would benefit us if we cultivated it?
Yeah. I mean, it helps that you're an alumni of something. That is one community that automatically kicks in. Other communities that I found are really great. I've just done a course recently on Warrior Art Camp, which was a bit more expensive, and Warrior Art Camp specifically is a bit more expensive, but not nearly as much as tertiary education. But now I'm sort of in their Discord server for life, and I have access to a lot of their stuff and their talks. I'm in quite a few Discord servers that is, you know, all about artists, and I think even left a few of them because I couldn't get in. But it's sort of, once you know about one, you're in that that Discord server, and then the things that they provide that is really nice is Warrior Art Camp specifically. I like a lot because there's sort of a welcome, introduce yourself. There's a public, they call it campground, where there's chatting, questions. Everyone gets to share their art, give each other feedback. But then they have on their website, they have these tutorials and courses that run that are part of it. So I think what I love that you already have the Discord going, and I know that you do specifically do tutorials and whatnot, but I think that, you know, keeping on doing that, and if someone in your community wants to provide a tutorial or wants to provide something that can help others, it's sort of a back and forth system. That would be great. I mean, it's ideal in any sort of world, I guess, but I think where we can uplift each other and teach each other things at the price of learning things from others as well, in turn, I think that's really great. Not just going on it and just taking, but also then saying, okay, my payment to be here is probably to give as well. Things that, you know, so that's what I would say. And then otherwise, I found a lot of community on Instagram as well. You know, I reach out to artists whose stuff I like a lot, all the time. I just reached out to this guy who did these storyboards for Harry Potter that I think are fantastic. And we just started chatting, and we talked, and we're friends now, basically. So, you know, that's sorted. I'm going to make a trip to Annecy. I know, again, that's not accessible to everyone, but CGIF is a bit more accessible, even Comic-Con. These are the places where animators crawl out their holes once a year and come show their faces in the light. And if you can say hi to them face to face, it's not a bad idea. Even those events, I know that the animation school does those events, the Thursday night talks that they do at times.
Animation exchange.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we are not very social, so when we are social, take advantage. And that's how, you know, and again, with industry, that's how you make your mentors, is just being friends. My mentors come from friendship. So that takes some time, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to have one right now. You can have one in a year or two. That's okay as well, but you'll definitely find.
Yeah, I need to learn how to like talk to people more on Instagram and not just send 1,000,000,001 dumb reels. I don't know, maybe that's a technique that will work. I'll just like find a random artist and like spam them with reels until they can't ignore me, or I'll get blocked. It's just like, how do you communicate? How do you start a conversation?
If they block you, you don't want to be their friend anyway, so it's fine. Okay. I think that's totally fine. Yeah, I'll just say, hey, I love your art. That's really cool. You know, and then ask, you know, where do you work? What do you do? That's amazing. And yeah, just chatting about stuff. People drop comments on my art, and I'll drop comments on their art, and try and chat. So yeah, I mean, I think Instagram is nice. LinkedIn feels more official, so commenting on something,
weird.
It's weird. I messaged someone who's going to Annecy, who works at DreamWorks, and I saw that they're going to Annecy via the NIFA website. I messaged this person. I said, hi, I'm so excited. I would love to meet you at Annecy. And the first sort of response is, I'm not allowed to give jobs. You know, so it's because LinkedIn is so official, it always seems like reaching out to ask for a job. Yeah. And it's like, no, I just want to say hi and socialize. So, but Instagram is way more chilled. So if you can find people on Instagram, that's such an easy way to reach out, say, you know, hey, how are you? I'd like to get to know you, or meet up here or anything like that. And that's also, I think, where you'll find communities like SADAC and others that say, oh, we have a drink and draw here, or we have these, you know, it's just a lot more relaxed, I think.
Yeah. No, I like this kind of like casual space. And LinkedIn's really weird. It's got 1,000,000,001 notifications. And I mean, there was someone who passed away the other day. So I left my condolences on the post. And the first thing LinkedIn does is notify me, and it says, hey, Jeannie, lead the conversation with your comments. I'm like, no, that's not appropriate.
No,
like, it's got no, it's weird.
Yeah. They're like, you will network whether you like it or not. Like, I don't like it. I just want to talk and say hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's crack on then. So how would you describe your personal journey as your authorial identity changing throughout the years? So, as someone who writes and creates, how has your identity changed with the extra learning and exposure to culture and new people?
Oh man, this is such a tough one. I've never had a very strong sense of identity. I've never had the feeling of, and this is very unique, I think, to me. I think a lot of people have such strong voices and I have this to say, or I am this person. And for me, I think the biggest thing is I've been trying to just not emulate Disney because I grew up with it. So I've never really known what my identity is. And all I know that I'm trying to get good. So when I was studying fine art, I was asked as well, like, what do you want to paint? What do you want to say? And all I could ever say was, I just want to learn how to paint. I don't necessarily have something to say. But I know so I spoke a bit to the director of The Bad Guys. His name is Pierre Perifel, and I met him at the Annie's director of DreamWorks, and he basically he's French. He comes from Gobelins as well. He went to DreamWorks, and he specifically said in this chat that we had that he never really felt that he had an identity until he figured out that he had an identity. It's like it takes so long, and he learned it in his maybe late 30s, early 40s when he was doing The Bad Guys, where he realized all of his influences were coming to him naturally. He found the thing that he liked doing, and it's all about French comics. It's all about the things he grew up with, and that sort of formed his identity. And I don't think I found that yet, and that I will. I just know, and I've been trying to find it, but I've realized that trying to force it doesn't work either. So I've kind of relaxed about that in a sense, and I'm still just trying to get good. To me, that's important, is trying to make sure that I know what I'm doing, know what I'm drawing, and how to do it. And that my identity, it'll come. I found that because even in Gobelin, I worked on the Soloists, which was not my story. It was Mehrnaz, and she's from Iran, and it's her specific story. And I didn't have a story to present either. I didn't have anything to say, and I really enjoyed working on and helping and supporting other stories, and helping and supporting that story and making it look really good. That was really my passion in that, if that could be an identity. But yeah, so we'll see. Lots of time still. Does that answer the question?
It looks like we
I think she fell off.
Yeah.
Hi.
Let's just give her
Am I back?
minute or two.
No.
Yeah, sorry guys. It seems my Discord just briefly died there entirely.
Oh no.
That was scary. Everything just went silent. Shannon, is this what you deal with?
Okay,
are we back?
Yes. I think so.
It looks like
all right, sorry.
Up and running.
Okay, where I last heard off was it wasn't your story, but you enjoyed working on all of these other stories.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where my place is right now. And even teaching, I really enjoying helping students find their voice and helping students find what they want to say. So I'll probably keep doing that for a while until I specifically land on the thing that I'm like, oh, okay, this is who I am and what I want to do, besides being just mostly helpful.
Yeah. That's completely valid. It is a lot of pressure to say, hey, what is the one thing that drives every single story? I remember we had to do that as an exercise in university, where we would go into like a 3-hour one-on-one consultation with our lecturers, and we would delve into like every aspect of our life to try and figure out, when we told a story, what's the common thread. And like it got really hard for a lot of people because then they started learning things about themselves. So I feel like that's a bit forced. So it's good to hear that you're still finding your way into it.
Yeah, and that's, for me, that's such a good way of saying things, and I think that's important for anyone, is that nothing should be forced.
Yeah.
Especially story, especially identity, especially always failed at any point that I try to force something, and it's about things feeling natural and growing. So that's why I've sort of relaxed about it. It's like, okay, I don't maybe have a very strong identity right now, but if it'll happen in time.
Yeah.
And I'll be very happy for it at that point. And that even, if I can just talk on this for a second, we're all very stressed in animation, and we all want to know, what am I saying? How am I going to be? How am I going to succeed in life? How am I going to be amazing at things? And there's so much time. There is so much time. I was at the Annies, and all the directors, well, most of them, 99% of the directors are over 50. And everyone I've met at school who's studying right now, all my students are 20, and they're saying, oh, I want to be a director. And it's like, okay, you got 30 years. You have so much time. I myself, I'm 30, and being there, I was like, okay, I'm worried because I want to achieve my things in life. And when I saw that all the directors are over 50, I was like, oh, I still have 20 years. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you
I have time. Yeah, there's no reason. Just keep going forward. You are going forward. And if you're learning, and I've applied this to my life a lot, with if you are learning something and you're growing, you are sort of on one of those people mover things. What do you call them? Almost like an escalator. But they're flat. The ones at the airport. You're on one of those because even if you were to stop, you are still going.
Yeah.
You cannot go back. I mean, yes, you can turn around, but when you're doing art, you really can't unlearn what you've learned. You can't undo the work that you've done, or the project that you've worked on. So you can only go forward. So just keep, patience is key. It really is. So anyway, that was my tangent.
No, good tangent. It's good to have that reassurance, because I think there's especially from the younger people as well getting into it. You've got people coming out of high school and trying to get into animation schools and that. And yes, the industry is very high pressure, and yes, it takes a long time to build up, but I think people do put a lot more pressure on themselves than they should at all.
Yeah.
And they stress and burn themselves out long before they've even given themselves a chance. So I'm glad to hear it's not just me saying that.
It's all my students. I get so tired of them. They come and say, oh, I don't know. I had a student as well the other day come in saying that they were worried about their storyboards, and they're really feeling sad about it and struggling and angry. My cats are having crazy zoomies. But, again, I was like, you're 20 years old. This is your second time ever storyboarding.
Yeah.
You've done it one other time in another class. Like, you should be failing. You should be struggling. You shouldn't be getting it right, because we all have 10,000 bad drawings in us. So if you're doing another bad drawing, good. That's another one down. Move on. Do the next one. You're not going to get it right at 20. You're not going to get it right at 30. You might start getting it right at 40. The stuff takes time. And sure, there are these outliers, and we see them on Instagram all the time. And I have one or two of them as well, as students who are 20, 200,000 followers on Instagram, successful, all these wonderful things. And that's great for them, but they're not common, and they're not normal, and they have their own trajectory and journey, and it'll be different. So just tip your hat, say, I respect that. That's great, but I'm going to do, my own thing.
I've met a few like that as well, and they're like, oh my gosh, I was asking you for advice, and then you found out how old I am, and now you're calling me ma'am. What the hell? All right, so on that, we're coming out of the stressful side of things, but what for you has been your most exciting project you've worked on so far?
So it's actually interesting, because I've worked on 3 that are now sort of coming out, and one that came out earlier is Kiya and the Kimoja Heroes. It's on Disney Plus. It's for kids. I worked on that project the longest. I worked on it for 8 months at Triggerfish, and while I was in France as well with the French studio. So I'm proudest of that one, because I spent so much time and so much of my life, and I can see it in watching it. I can see the effect that I had in it, which is really great.
Yeah.
I am very excited about Star Wars, obviously. So that's the other one, Star Wars Visions. Our song that came out, I was a character concept artist and a bit of a designer. So I designed, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a louse, a rock louse.
Yes, I've seen the little louses.
Yeah, so that was my design, which I was very happy with. And then a lot of the other stuff, so mostly prop design, character textures, these things. So I'm very proud of it, but it was very almost tedium work in finding textures, things, and researching, and it was almost more technical. So it wasn't exciting to work on. The result is way more exciting. I loved it. It wasn't sort of the part where I really shine. But then Kizazi Moto, which is coming out 5th of June, I designed some creatures for the first time, which is really awesome. So you'll see some in one of the.
Say which one of the films, or?
Yes, so it was Hatter Boy.
Yeah.
Which
director is that?
Raymond Malinga.
Okay.
From Ghana. Yeah, so that one is really awesome, and I designed some creatures in there, which I was like, oh man, that was really fun and different to anything I'd ever done. And I had it. That one was really, really exciting. So I'm super keen to see it come out.
That's coming out on the 5th, hey?
Yeah, very soon.
Finally, I was waiting for it February last year already. I'm like, where is it?
Yeah. No, I've also been waiting for ages. They're all coming out now at the same time, which is really fun.
Yeah, that I'm very happy for. We can have a marathon or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Okay, our song I see is doing really, really well. I see out of all of the anthology films, it's been rated the best in storytelling and setting and design and everything. Like, I'm really happy to see how well it's been received.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. Dan and Nadia, who directed it, I mean, it's really their brainchild, and they are so talented. And I was just lucky to really be a part of it. But it was, I mean, hands down the most beautiful. I mean, there were other gorgeous ones, but just it's so rich and intense and detailed. I'm super impressed. It's gorgeous, and it's getting really, really good feedback, which is super cool.
I hope some of you guys can go and see it. Like, I have not gotten Disney Plus just yet, but I've been like binging off of other people's accounts, and I need to get my own for Kizazi Moto because I might make a fool of myself and not be invited again. Anyway, so I wanted to ask, what sort of brought you to the States to teach? Like, you touched on it very briefly, but how did you end up in the role now as a teacher?
So this is actually how most jobs, I think, in industry happen, is through someone that you know. And I was lucky in that, Tinus van Rooyen, who you've also interviewed on here. So he was teacher here first, and there was an open role, and he was reaching out to people to hear who'd be interested. He also reached out to me, and I said, yep, I'd definitely be interested. I've always wanted to move to the US, and I've wanted to live here and work here. And I saw this job posting as an opportunity to increase my learning.
Yeah.
Not just my learning, and then also I do want to be a director one day. So I also saw it as a way to really grow those skills, the interpersonal people skills, getting people to do amazing work. That's really what I wanted to learn with it. So I applied. I obviously by his recommendation as well. And then I got an interview where they make you do a lecture, like a test lecture, to sort of the dean of the school and other professors, and it was like 3 men, and they were all older and really scary looking, and I had to pretend that they were students and ask them questions like, do you understand what I'm saying? But
terrifying.
It really was, but I went for it, and that's what convinced them of me, is that I could explain concepts really well and help them understand things, and they were happy to have me on. It was sort of just an immediate yes, which was great. And then I put all the paper. It took a while. I mean, I think I had my interview like in September and October, and I started in February, March. So it took a long time.
I suppose you also got to get all the visas and everything sorted as well.
Yeah, and it was just the end side of COVID, so all the paperwork was taking longer than it should have. So but managed to get there, and then all sorted out. So. Yeah,
it's a good space to be in. Do you think that teaching has taught you, or
yes.
And would you recommend teaching to artists as well, like as that journey?
I don't want to stop teaching. I definitely, I do want to get back into industry at some point. I don't want to leave industry, but I don't want to stop teaching ever, because I have learned so much. I was forced to learn some stuff that I didn't know in order to teach my students. One example being like 5-point perspective. I was like, oh, what? I have to teach this, so I have to know it. I can't just sort of pretend to know it. And definitely. So I was forced to learn a lot of stuff, and I would definitely recommend it for anyone. It's scary and daunting, but you really just have to know that someone doesn't know what you know, and it's helpful. And if you can put it in words that they understand, it also means that you can communicate well with anyone. So yeah, absolutely. If you can teach, do it. I'm planning on doing courses and doing stuff one day as well, that I can put out there. And I think that it's always beneficial. And then also teaching, I learned as well, it's not just about concepts that you're teaching to students to understand, but it's about interpersonal relationships with the students as well, and getting them to want to do things. Getting people, I think that's one of the biggest skills that I learned, even at Gobelins, in my teamwork with other students, creating the film, is that most people need to have a reason why they're doing something. They need to enjoy it and they need to want to do it. And sometimes things get hard and difficult and slow, and they don't want to do it. And my biggest challenge always, and what I still do with my students to this day, and I think that is the most successful tactic, is really just getting them to want to do it. So offering them support, saying, hey, this is amazing work. Look at this. It's really great. Have you considered these changes here? Because it would look better if you did this. And then you'll see them do the changes and they say, oh man, that's so cool. This looks so much better. Look at what I created. This is amazing. And then they start, building confidence and getting better at it. And I do think that that's one of the sort of underrated leadership skills out there, is to get people to want to do cool things and then therefore be inspired to do them and do them well.
Yeah. That was definitely a thing. Like I also, I didn't teach on the level that you taught, but getting into it and learning just the basics even, it really is motivating to see, how other people operate, what motivates them. Also, like their own backgrounds provide you with such a rich exposure to like things you hadn't even thought about being an interest in drawing. Like I met people that were obsessed with drawing shoes and could talk endlessly about fashion, which had never been an interest of mine. But then when you see how they can incorporate that as a storytelling element into their animation, it really is amazing. And from other people, you learn so much, and you go and you acquire. So like I think teaching offers you the opportunity to like curate and pick your information where you want it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And definitely, and again, I've learned even from studying, I've learned the most from other people, not necessarily from my instructors. And I think that the students also learn the most from the people around them. So that's why as animators, we can become lone wolves and stay at home and be behind our computer all the time. And that is the benefit of having tertiary education, but also where you then have the responsibility to reach out to communities and talk to people as much as possible, because it is a team sport. Yeah. Animation is solo work and animation. They go together, but it's difficult and sad and lonely. And I think that we care so much about it, that it's really all about those relationships with people, and it'll stand you in really great stead to have those skills in the long run. The people that I met, again, I keep talking about the Annies, but it was so incredible to meet people on that side of the glass sort of dome. And everyone that I met was the nicest person I met that day. Like every time I met someone new, they were incredible. So it's that people care, it's that people want to be there, it's that people love what they do, and they're excited to talk to you about it. And yeah, it's just reach out is where it's the most important, and get to know and work with people. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. So my next question is about the Soloists. Can you tell us a bit about, you mentioned the director and where she's from, but how did that whole process go? What was the story development like, to production? Did you have any major struggles on your production? And how did you get to the Annies? Like, how did you work your way up there?
So the story came, so we were at the end of our first year, we pitched a bunch of stories. All of us had different stories, and I specifically teamed up with the people that I teamed up with because we all had 3D background and we wanted to do a 3D film. Gobelins doesn't do many 3D films, and we all wanted to, and I brought in myself and E, who were more 2D centric, so that we could bring it all together. And it's not just 3D. And then Mehrnaz's story, it just stood out. I mean, it's a story about, we didn't know that Iran is this tight in its rules, especially with women. And it was a shock for us to find out that this story, which was a cute story about 3 little old ladies and their dog wanting to sing at a performance, but weren't allowed to because they're not allowed to sing. The rule is they're not allowed to sing in groups less than 3. They can't be soloists. Yeah. So they had to figure it out. And we thought this was a really cute story, and then learned that, it's really based on real life. And everyone we spoke to subsequently about it also didn't know. So we said, okay, well, maybe it's our opportunity to bring this to light a little bit. And Mehrnaz is passionate about it. For the first time in her life in Paris, she could laugh out loud in the streets, and her husband was shocked. And it's like,
Oh,
what?
wow.
How is that even a thing? So much of the world actually lives so much more freely than, it should be that way, but we don't really realize that some people don't. So we were passionate about the story because it was cute, it was funny. We had the aesthetic side of things, which was pushed, and we loved doing that, and it was fun, but we also really cared about the subject matter. And then when we made it about old people, or old ladies, we all correlated to our own grandmothers. And I based some of the designs off my own gran as well, which I always tend to do. And it's just became a personal touch point for all of us. We all just were invested in it. And so all 5 of us on the team, we were at one point, we were 6, and we had some team struggles, and that does happen, and it's not often spoken about. But then we eventually dropped down to 5 because it didn't work out, but we made up plans. So we dropped to 5, and we, all 5 of us, really were in it 120%. And that's where I learned that having people, inspired to do the work is the key. Because everyone was inspired to be there every single day. And that was so special. And we worked ourselves to the bone. It's not something I would suggest. It's not for everyone. You don't have to work yourself to the bone for things. We had neck problems, health problems, the whole thing. I didn't sleep, didn't do anything. Again, it's not for everyone. It was temporary. It did end. And I'm very happy that we did it. And we just wanted to create a very beautiful 3D animated film that we cared about. We finished it, and then we sort of let it go into the universe. We actually didn't fully finish it when we graduated because there were some mistakes. And then the Gobelins came back to us a few months later saying, hey, we want to submit it to some higher up festivals. Can you fix the mistakes? So we had to go back in a couple of months later, fix some stuff, which we did. And then, we just let it go into the ether, and we didn't know. I didn't know. It's so hard when you're in something to know if it's good or not.
Yeah, you get your blinders on and you stop seeing the film anymore.
Yeah, every time I watch it, I look at the mistakes. I can't see... I'm seeing the flashes, and I'm like, oh no, and I can't see it anymore. And also because I voiced certain parts of it as well, so everything makes you cringe, no matter what you do. And I never in my wildest dreams thought it would go to the Annies. It got nominated for a student BAFTA, which already blew my mind. It was amazing and incredible. I got to go, so it was about a year ago that I got to go to the student BAFTAs in LA. And we didn't win, which I was like, yeah, totally cool. The fact that we even just got to be here was amazing. And we got to meet some other filmmakers, and because the student BAFTAs aren't only for animation, but for film and documentary as well. So I got to meet some really, really cool people. And I was like, cool, that was it. That was done. That was the Soloists. And then I got a message from a friend of mine in February or end of January while I was busy teaching in class. And he said, oh, congratulations on your Annie nomination. I was like, haha, you're funny. And then saw the news, and it was so left field. I basically screamed for the rest of the day, and couldn't handle it, and I freaked out because I don't know. It just blew my mind. I didn't think it was possible. And then we got nominated, and then I remember being like, oh, I don't care about if we win or not. And I had a couple of dreams before where we didn't win in my dream, and I was so devastated. And I woke up the next morning like, maybe I do care. And then before we went, I kept running into bad luck. So like my shoes hurt my feet, it would rain the day, or I would forget my keys somewhere. And I kept saying to myself, it's karma, checking in, cashing in karma so that we can win the Annie.
Yeah.
And then it was a magical weekend. Met amazing people from all over because we had 3 students in the film who are Netflix scholarship holders. We got to go visit Netflix. We got to meet Ted Sarandos, the COO of Netflix as well, have a chat with him. So we got to Netflix, we got to DreamWorks because of the Gobelin connection, Jim Henson's workshop, and got to go to Illumination as well. I got to see some cool studios, and then got to do the Annie Awards, which was incredible. And then when we won, I think my brain left my body. I remember because I was sitting next to Zaki, and we held hands waiting to hear it, and I think I crushed all the bones in his hand.
Must shake.
Yeah, and I just like squished it down. So it was incredible. I remember us practicing the speech beforehand, like, oh yeah, we won't get it, and then we got it.
Oh wow.
So no, it was.
I think so. some people in chat might not know what the significance of an Annie is. Would you mind like just putting into perspective what an Annie Award is and what it means?
Sure. So the Annie Awards that we went to were the 50th Annie Awards. So they've been going for 50 years. The Oscars are for film, and animation for many, many years has tried very hard to get into the Oscars as a legitimate category, to be seen as a legitimate genre. But it always gets sort of piled at the end, and there's only been, I think, once or twice that an animated film has ever won or been nominated for Best Feature, and that was Beauty and the Beast and Up.
Yeah.
Never otherwise has an animated film ever been nominated for Best Feature. It's always just in the animation category. So the people who did the Annie Awards, I don't know the names, but they said, listen, animation is an incredible feat of power and skill and talent, and it's not fair that we just get to just be sort of put on the sidelines. So the Annies are really the closest thing, at least from Hollywood side of things. I mean, there are other festivals, there's Cannes, there's Annecy, there's the great things, but when it comes to Hollywood, the Annie Awards are the Oscars for animation.
Yeah.
So there's only animation categories, and it goes from, feature film, and the different categories are character design, storyboarding, VFX, all these kind of things, and they really include, so everything was included, even from sort of VFX and live action was also included, but mostly like Avatar would be sort of the most realistic, all the way to stop mo, and the Marcel the Shell with Shoes On won a lot of awards that night, which is really great, which is very much live action but had stop mo animation or 3D animation that looked like stop mo.
I haven't seen it yet. Like, it's weird and cute looking, but I just haven't actually found the time to watch it.
It's really good. It's really. I watched it on the airplane one time, and it's just the sweetest thing. It's really cute. But yeah, so it is really the most prestigious of the prestigious. I mean, the people that I met there sat down and had a chat with Guillermo del Toro. Quickly met Alfonso Cuarón, if you don't know who he is. He did The Witness and The Windscreen Wiper and has won Oscars for stuff. He was the director on Spider-Verse. But then wasn't anymore for internal reasons that we don't know. And saw Domi Shi really quickly. The guy who made the Powerpuff Girls, he won an award as well. Pete Docter was there. Who's the CEO of Disney? He was there as well. But yeah.
Not Iger. It's
I think it was Bob Iger.
Oh, was it Iger at the time? I can't ever keep up, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. There were so many people, but yeah. So and Guillermo del Toro really shone. He took the spotlight that night because
I've heard he's a lot of fun.
He's amazing. He's super nice. He at the end of the night, I mean, he sat down by a table and people would line up to see him, and he'd make them sit down next to him, and then he'd talk to them for however long they wanted to talk. There was no like, oh, we can't talk, but I have to see someone else or I have to go. He's just the nicest, and he's so passionate about everything he does. He just cares. So really, really sweet. Yeah, so it was really a starstruck evening, and just a reminder that, having patience is important and things will come your way, even if it doesn't feel like it ever.
Yeah, it takes a while.
It does.
So on that, we've spoken a bit about the Annies now. You've briefly mentioned some festivals. I wanted to ask you, do you think that festival attendance is important, and why or why not?
Depends on what you have to show and what you want to achieve. So what was amazing about that festival, and that I would say is actually absolutely crucial to attend, is that because we were in on the student level, we got to sort of rub shoulders, but sort of talk to these people who are so inspiring and incredible at that level. So 100%, that's where I would go. I'm not going to go and attend every single festival because it costs money and it's difficult to do so. But the ones that are really crucial, and if you get the opportunity to attend them, I think that it opens up doorways and you meet people that are incredible, and stand you in good stead long term. I still am connected to a lot of people. I've met Annecy the first time I was there, and hopefully as well the people now from the Annies. But besides that, you go to Kids Screen if you really want to make kids content.
Yeah.
If that's really important to you, find the one or two that you can put into your budget that really, really are important to what you want to create. And then my cat's pushing glass off the table. Stop it. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, I would say that those are important. and meeting people, again, it's just that meeting people is important, and not just meeting people and saying, hi, I'd like a job, meeting people and saying, hi, how are you? Who are you? Let's get to know each other. And you have a talking point, which is the film that you've submitted. You said, this is what I've created. This is what I'm inspired and excited about. That is really beneficial in building your sort of tribe, the people that you get to know and work with in industry.
Yeah.
And most likely you'll end up knowing and working with them. More so than you can ever imagine the first time you meet them. It's just the industry is small enough that really will happen. Yeah.
How, like, so you have the international experience. Like, how small is the industry for you? Because this is a constant thing that I'm finding very amusing, where I'll be like, hey, friend of mine, have you met so-and-so? And they're like, oh, we're actually colleagues. And then that colleague knows this person, and everyone's actually worked together. Or even, comes to the point like Shannon, you happen to have been on teams with multiple people on the server, not even like quite realize because the usernames are different. So it is really small. Do you find it's a similar experience?
Yes, it is. The industry is huge. There's thousands of people. But in context to how many people there are on the planet, it's small. So you definitely hear about it all the time. And you definitely, I'm just here with the professors at SCAD, and a lot of them really just know each other. And I will know someone maybe who they know or who they've met. All the time. So it really is small, but it's bigger than, let's say, South African industry, for instance. But I think also it's such a fluid industry, and that people move from project to project so often that you'll find probably you'll get to know people just by chance because you've worked on so many different projects and stuff. So it is a small industry in the case that, even though there's a lot of people work with each other all the time.
Yeah.
And stuff and shift projects all the time. So I speak to the professors here who, oh yeah, I worked at DreamWorks, oh, and Disney, oh, and Pixar, oh, and EA Games, oh, and this, and you're like, oh, geez, okay.
Playing a game of yes and.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's definitely small, and you have to be careful because you want people to, not careful in to send doom and gloom, but just know that you will get known, your name will get known, people will talk about you, and you want people to like to be a good person, be good to work with, be kind and humble, and all that stuff that'll stand you in good stead.
No, I think that especially is just remember you never know who you're actually talking to a lot of the time. And just especially just communication. Oh my God, it's so important. Just make sure if you're struggling, get shit in on time. I know this is like coming a bit out of left field, but just on that point, as a reminder to people, it is sometimes more important to just tell someone, hey, you're going to be slightly late, than let people down and not get hired again. Just putting that out there.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Okay. I realized we were running slightly over time. Would you mind still hanging on for a few more questions?
Yeah,
okay, great.
Yeah. All good.
Okay, we can start with a nice relaxed one. So what would you say is your favorite recharge activity when you're away from your computer?
I like to go for walks. I have a park not far from my house, and I'm lucky that I can do that here. In Paris, I've had the same thing. It's not always the case, but I like to just be a little bit in nature. I find that if I've been at my computer for a whole weekend and I go for a walk, it feels like I'm in VR because my eyeballs are trying to adjust to the distance. So that's when I know I've been inside for too long. But I like doing that. I'm in a difficult situation right now where I sort of just live for my work. So I go to work, come back, and that's it. So I have my cats. I will watch films. The other night I rewatched Shrek again, which was great. And I find that in this space that I currently am in, going for walks helps the best. If I had a more settled sort of way of life and I could really choose, it would definitely be more physical activity. So, going, if you go like indoor rock climbing or going hiking or going canoeing somewhere or just doing some sort of really far outdoor activity to get away from everything, that's definitely a way that I find is most fulfilling and really fun. And then another one that I never do anymore that I used to do all the time and I enjoy a lot is just hand sculpting.
Ooh. Do you have like any little trinkets you could show us at some point?
I had one a while ago, but I gave it away. And I have actually have little ones here that I like these little mushrooms with butts. So it's like a little mushroom girl, and she's a hat, which is the top of the mushroom, and then but she has specifically has little butt cheeks.
I love that.
So I can show that, but yeah, I just to do that and just mess around, and I'll end up mostly destroying what I've done because it usually doesn't look great. It's just that physical, tactile element of working with something is really relaxing, and that's something that helps me to definitely just move away from the computer a little bit.
Yeah, there's something I still want to try out. Sorry, I was just gonna say something I still want to try out. Have you ever heard of a rage room?
A rage room. Some of my students went recently.
Oh, I so want to go.
And I heard that they smashed things and broke stuff, and there was a piñata and plates and things they could smash. So that sounds really great to me. I also really like. I know this is something that Tina took me one time to do. Was just going to a shooting range. Just shooting a gun at a target. Also, just something that that was really nice. I've also done axe throwing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so throwing axes. Just there's a place here in Atlanta that does that. And that's really fun too. And it's again that intense, strenuous activity that you get to express yourself with is good. I think a rage room would be fun, but I also think constant therapy is important.
Just a smidge.
Yeah. Don't do rage room because you don't do therapy. Like do it on top of,
Yeah, you can consider it a practical workshop for your therapy.
Exactly. Or if budget's a bit low for therapy, then do rage room if you can.
There's one in Joburg, and I think maybe if I can get enough like people together one day, I'll like rile them up, and then we can like get a room together or something, and just like smash a car.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. Yeah, definitely worth it. Yeah.
Could you offer any? Well, okay, I've got two questions. One, do you have any projects you're currently developing? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Seth in the middle. And then do you have any advice for people who would like to create their own content?
So I've been creating, so I pitched my project at CTIF in the hopes to go to Annecy, but it didn't. But either way, I am still working on it and developing it because I do love it a lot. I am trying to reshift a little bit now after some feedback. But I'm working on hopefully a feature film of my own making and creation, which is really sort of fantasy sci-fi mix. Seth being one of the characters that you see here. I will be, if you follow me on my Instagram, I will be posting a lot of that soon before Annecy, so probably in the next week or so, because I do want to have it out there before I go. And it's really, I've just been really having a good time. And that was one of the times in my life where I had to question my identity, because when you are going into making something of a large scale, you have to have a why, so that you don't lose interest. Even though it's art, even though it's animation. I have another project that I've worked on for ages now, which is a bit of a comic, but it's more for adults. And I've lost sort of interest in it, because I don't have a story that is my why yet. I haven't figured it out. I love the designs, I love drawing the characters, but that's kind of where it ends for me. So I do need to give it the time and sit with it and give it a why, which I'm hoping to do over the summer, because I do want to keep adding to my roster of stuff I've developed. Because when you don't have work and when things have sort of fallen out from underneath you and you start speaking to people and saying, hey, I'm looking for this job, I'm looking for this here and this and that, it stands so much in your stead to say that you have sort of a life beyond your job. You do things because you love it. You want to expand your skills and your horizons, and you're trying different things. You're not just an answering machine. So you're not just getting instructions and doing stuff. You're also creating from a point of pure creativity. You're also coming up with your own stuff. I think that's not everyone that does that. So it's really useful and stands in your stead. And then once you've done it and you've created your stuff and you found something you're really passionate about, you've made a comic, you've developed a pitch packet, you've developed these things, there's so many opportunities out there that people aren't aware of just because you think they're not out there. So for instance, Annecy, every year, they only pick about 32 projects out of 600 that submit, but you can submit a project every year, no matter who you are, to Annecy. You can submit your project once you've done the research. There's even guidelines on the website that tell you what you need in your pitch for it to be accepted. So you go in and you can see different pictures of if you do attend. That's one of the examples. I'm pretty sure it's the same for most other festivals as well, that you can just send your stuff and submit it. Once you understand the international industry a bit better, and this is something that I'm learning, you eventually do need an agent. I don't know how it works from a South African point of view, but me being here in the US, I will need an agent who will then also help to push your project and your stuff to studios, to places to help get it sold. You need to be represented by someone, but it's different in the US. In France, you need a producer, not an agent.
Yeah.
So in France, you need someone who's back. It's the same sort of thing, but they're not tied to you. They're just a producer, and they're looking to find people to work on cool projects. They find your project, they like it, they'll pull people together. So different industries work in different ways, but having that, it's a slow process. Kiya, I think took 10 years. It started being developed in 2015 and has now, so not 10 years, but I think the very, very first development was 2015. I jumped on it 2019, and now it has been released 2023. So it's almost 10 years, and it takes a very, very long time. So, develop it anyway, work on it anyway in your own time, chat to people about it, figure it out. I know this project, my project is young. It's 6 months, not 6 months, it's 2 months old. And I know this is just the beginning, so I'm very patient about it, saying, okay, well, this is my first try, so let's keep going at this project at least, and it'll take time, and that's fine. So, but these characters, if you like them, draw them, write them down. I have just posted, I don't know if you saw my Instagram, the elf girl that I was been posting. I'm immediately thinking, oh, I want to make a music video. I made an 80s music video, and I don't have time or anything. But I want to, and again, we should be spending time outside of our income, our budget, our job, our life. We should be spending time cultivating things that we enjoy and love doing and want to create. If you're not doing it, you're probably maybe more technically inclined, or maybe more writing inclined, or maybe more, you'll whatever you do in your spare time that you can do for hours and forget the time, that's what you love the most. And I'm not saying you have to do that for a job. I would love a job where I do something technical in the job and get home at night and draw. That would be fine. I would love that. But just know that that's what you should be spending time on and pursuing. Is something that you could do and not realize the time going by.
I think it's also important to remember that hobbies can also elevate your work as well. As I said earlier, you get people that obsess over shoes, and they can tell you the whole history of every kind of shoe. Well, just now you get a project that's all about the secret life of shoes, So it's good to have those hobbies and have that knowledge. It really does help, in the long run, because as animators, you're going to be working on such a broad range of stuff. I was speaking to an artist recently who spends, I think she said, 2 months designing crap. Literal crap falling out of an animal's backside. And you get paid for that, and you have to research that, and your Google history looks really, really strange. But those hobbies and breaking away and taking time, as you said, outside of work, they really do pay off. So I always see that stuff as like an investment in yourself. So if you can indulge yourself in a 48-hour jam, or go out for a jog, or go to some obscure Tumblr page and engage in a very weird, depraved community, go for it. You might use it.
Absolutely. And even museums. The other day I took my students to there's a puppetry museum here, so you could see creatures from the Dark Crystal and the Muppets and Sesame Street and all these things. It's just, your brain just does something else when you see something physically. So even paintings in a museum, or you see sculptures, or how things are outside in the world, not just on the screen, it adjusts. Your brain adjusts differently, and it adds some stuff. At Gobelins, we're encouraged every Thursday afternoon. We had off, and they said, go into Paris, go sit by the side of the river and watch people play music and dance, or go to a museum, or go travel on a train somewhere and do something interesting and fun that you like to do, that inspires you. And I've spoken again and again to my mentors from Gobelins, and they always say to you, go to the museums often. What do you do in your space? The question is always, what are you doing to enrich your life? Not necessarily, are you drawing anatomy every day? It's really enriching yourself in your life. That will inform your identity, and that will inform what you like. You'll figure it out that way. Yeah.
Good. Cheers, Connor. Keep well. Chris, sorry, me. You guys are attached, apparently. Okay, so second to last question, and then I'll open up if we have, if you're still willing for time, if we've got at least 2 or 3 questions, that would be great. But I wanted to ask, have you ever encountered a time where you wanted to give up following this path? And if so, what made you decide to keep going at it?
Oh yeah. Every other week. Every other week I say I want to buy myself a cabin in the woods and grow a vegetable patch. Just not do this anymore. Not because I don't like it, but because it's difficult. It's really difficult at times to say that when you look at all the other artists that are out there, when you see AI coming in, and you see the big changes that are happening, the big layoffs at Disney, I sometimes think maybe I should do something else. And I've that voice that comes up, I just kind of I indulge her for a second, and then I'm like, okay, keep drawing. Keep drawing. I love drawing. I couldn't not do it. I have always had a voice of doubt sitting with me. That's never not been there. I've just learned to not listen to her because my desire to reach my dreams is bigger, and larger and louder. And I can't. If I were to give up and go, because that's what I ask myself. Okay, if you give up, then what? Then what?
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's nothing else that I can see myself doing. There's nothing else I would rather be doing. If there was something else I'd rather be doing, I would go do that.
Yeah.
But I don't. So I will be here and I will be doing it. And it is difficult. It's not because it's drawing and because we love it doesn't mean that it's easy. Doesn't mean that we'll always like it. Doesn't mean that we'll always succeed. It's a battle so much of the time.
Yeah.
But I know that no matter what, I want to be doing what I want to be doing. So I had to take a deep breath. Just say, okay, well, keep going. No stopping now. And it's also okay to take breaks. I love taking breaks. My best work, and this is what has helped me also to overcome wanting to give up at times, is just saying, okay, fine, I'm going to take 3 months and not draw for fun, and not draw for pleasure. Sure, I do it at work and whatnot, but if I don't draw for 3 months and I sort of just forget about it, I've come back every single time knowing how to draw better.
Yeah.
And being better at my work, and sort of even just leveling up in a whole new way, where I've had the time to compute how I'm feeling, take in a lot of other influences that I didn't even notice I was taking in, and then I get so excited about drawing again, I'll come back and I draw. And I just know that I'll find a way. Everyone's dream, everyone's path, no matter what industry you're in, it's difficult, and it's not always clear how it's going to go. But I know that with this one, most artists feel extremely passionate about it and want to do great things. And I think that that's what makes it so special as an industry. And I think that giving up is tempting, and it's totally normal to feel it. Don't be ashamed of feeling that you wanted to give up. I've done it so many times. But just, there is no alternative for me. And if there is no alternative for you, then stick to it. If there is an alternative and you'd rather be doing that, then go for it. There's no reason. There's obviously a lot of complex issues and reasons why things are difficult in life, so that you might not have the accessibility. Things might be 100 times harder, but I have met so many interesting people in animation with so many different stories and backgrounds that you'd think would never have been able to succeed, but they did. Marinaz, as an example, from the Soloists, she'd been doing animation for 10 years for studios in Iran before she had the opportunity to finally go to Gobelins and leave her country, and now has been working on Game of Thrones, Marvel movies, all these kind of things. Where it seemed really impossible from her side of things, living in this society that wouldn't allow women, like she wasn't allowed to leave the country without her husband's permission. So it was really difficult. But she's really, really passionate about it and didn't give up ever, and still doesn't. And she's really been through the ringer. So I find that, and it's tough to say, because from anyone's point of view it might not seem that way, but really anything is possible. And just keep going forward, one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. It's slow, and that's the big thing. It's slower than you think. And also, if you are trying, by the way, this is a side tangent, for anyone who does want to immigrate and go overseas and start a new life there, know that you have to put aside 10 years of your life. I know it's a tough one, tough pill to swallow, but I'm competing. If I want to get work outside of SCAD and an industry, I'm competing with people 10 years younger than me, because they already have degrees, they have ways in, they have, it's they have citizenships. They don't need to worry about the fact they need a visa. So I really have to compete at such a high level.
Yeah.
And then I also have to be building my own income for 10 years, building, having a mortgage on a house and paying my taxes for 10 years and doing stuff like that. I don't have any of that history. I'm loose. I'm trying to figure out my life. So I am 10 years behind the average American trying to get in here, and it would be the same in France or anywhere else. So it comes with it. It's difficult, and no one who is American or who is from that country will understand it. But you find your people who do understand it, and it's a tough one. And I wish there was a better answer for it, a better solution. But I also sort of rest knowing that, because now I'm not competing against people who are maybe who I could have competed with if I'm in the US. You know what I mean? So like not someone my age or like my skill level, because I can't. It's okay, fine.
Yeah.
Then let's compete with people who are 10 years younger than me. I can get in there. I'll get in somewhere, and I'll get there eventually. But I know that, trying to do that is a little bit fruitless, unfortunately. But your steps, they will figure it out and it will get there, but it's not going to be quick.
Yeah.
So it's just patience.
I've heard that from a few. I'm sure you know Tonico Pantua is, but he was also speaking about, just he is at a level that people could only dream to get at. He's like at a proper director's level, and just for the fact that he wasn't an American citizen, it delayed him and put him back in the kind of department that people would see more entry level in, despite his skill. And it was like purely admin. It was purely related to him not being part of that particular ecosystem in that industry. And it really is such a true thing that I don't think a lot of people consider. A lot of people have dreams of going to Japan and working on anime and that, but I mean, Japan's standards are insanely high. Their pay isn't very good to start off with, but they would hire local because it's easier, it's less paperwork. And I don't think people really understand that as much as they should.
Yeah, it's not just difficult to get in, but once you're in, it takes time. So if you are comfortable and happy in the country that you're in and you can make a life for yourself there, that is fantastic and amazing. But there is no greener pasture on the other side internationally, in the sense of your challenges are way up there. It's difficult. So you have to be prepared to know that it's not an easy thing. I think once you've been here for 10 years and you figured it out and you are settled, then it'll be probably really good and you'll figure it out. But it takes a lot of time. So don't go saying, oh, I'll just, it'll be better if I do it this way, that way, it'll be easier. Probably not. Just understand. And that is my biggest takeaway, if I can. The biggest lesson I've learned is really everything takes so much longer than you think it will. Slow down.
Yeah. And
be patient, and it's okay. We're not going to figure it out very quickly. And
you don't have to figure it out either. It's also perfectly valid to make dumb bullshit. People love dumb bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. And almost no one that I've met has figured it out quickly.
Yeah.
Everyone takes time. Everyone has a long battle to go through, and that's normal. That's why you have to really love it, because with animation, again, if you want to give up, ask yourself, do you really love it? Do you really want to be here?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, guys, I think I'm going to open up for any questions. If we have any questions, you can either drop them in chat or unmute yourselves and ask. Yeah, I'll do that now. Neil, do we have any questions in chat there?
No, got some comments here around the Soloists link that was posted, and some humor, but no questions in itself.
None yet.
No. I do have a question that's aimed at humor, though. Would you say it's more difficult deciding to follow this career path or deciding what to have for supper?
I can never decide what to have for supper. Following this career path was not a difficult decision at all. That was a very easy one. Much more difficult to decide what's for dinner. I think that if you are struggling to decide whether this is the career that you want, take some time to think about it. Again, because it takes a lot out of you, and a lot of you. So to me, Terrence is a really good example of an artist. So Taco Universe Terrence. his animation is so good, and he does work on animation, he does work in it, but his main love is fine art, and he does paintings, you know, and you can see him do these incredible paintings, and I think that's where he spends most of his life and his time. And you know, I don't want to, so I want to be in animation, but it's so cool that he's found something that he prefers doing and will spend more time doing that, and it's awesome and it's epic. So yeah.
I've actually never seen any animation from Terrence. I would love to see.
I mean, he works on Kizazi Moto. He was directing stuff on there. He directed with Malcolm and Panda. And I also think he works on one of the Star Wars ones as well.
Really?
I don't even know. Yeah.
I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, we took a group of interns to his studio. One thing he said that I really did like, because, you know, when you do get into the working field of things, every now and then it happens where you've got like really bad crunch time, and the thought of drawing something for yourself makes you feel really guilty. But he had said in that studio, and that's how he got into the fine art, was whenever inspiration hit, because it was so fleeting, he would ignore everything else and just go straight into whatever inspired him and just draw for a bit. And that's how he keeps his flame alive for art. Because that was a question, you know, inspiration and motivation and avoiding burnout. I think that was something valuable to take away that maybe you guys should also think about. It's for some people it works, some people doesn't.
For me, with the 3-month thing where I say like I don't touch anything with 3 months really helps me, because then what will generally happen is the next 3 months it's like furious. It's like I'm drawing every single second of every day because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've discovered something about myself and I've discovered something about how I draw. And then I'll go in and it has to be every 5 minutes. I have to keep charging my iPad. It's insane. Like constant trying to draw, because it's once that inspiration hits. So that's why I'm so happy sometimes to put away the stuff for 3 months, because I know, or even a month or even a couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, it'll come, you know, there's no forcing it. But it's, to me, that is what works for me. And then saying, okay, if I feel like I want to draw something, I'll do it, and it's super fun. So no, I appreciate that from him, because I agree with it completely.
Okay, I don't have any more questions, honestly. So if you need to drop off, thank you so much for coming through and taking the time to like answer our questions. Really love hearing your insights, and you know, just hearing about someone that's gone out into the wider world and had them experiences. It's been lovely. If there's any further insights or links to share, please do. But
let me quickly see if I want to find that. I've got the teacher one here, so I just want to share it. Give me a second. So in this teaching playlist that I have, I don't even know how many videos, 116 videos, there we go, that I found. And some of them, they range from storytelling to character design to basic drawing, to which books will help you improve your character design, studies on Arcane, some chats about Jordan Peterson talking about storytelling and the Jungian theories and things like that. So really, you should find something that's interesting to you. But these are all great videos. I even got the sometimes I'll put in weird stuff. I've got the Shia LaBeouf stuff in there as well. So it should keep you entertained at the very least. But I do also keep updating it and adding stuff if I find new things in there. So feel free to go at that one. But it's been super fun, and thank you. And I think one of the most difficult things, and we really touched upon a bunch of stuff today that I really believe in, and I think that's been really good, and I hope it's been helping. But finding mentorship is difficult. But I'm in a situation now where I'm now a mentor to probably, you know, I have all my students, but I have a handful, maybe 5 or 6 students who have started clinging on to me for mentorship. And that is something that I will, even if I were to leave SCAD, I would definitely keep being a mentor, because having mentors was so valuable. Being a mentor is so valuable. So, you know, when you do get a mentor, know that you'll probably also mentor one day. It's an important part of our society. And that don't be ashamed or afraid to ask someone to be a mentor, because we should be doing that. And someone should be excited to be a mentor. So, and it's not just about saying, oh, I like your art, will you be my mentor? It's, oh, I've gotten to know you. I think your work is really great. Could I send you an email every now and then asking for feedback? and that's the beginning. And then you can go from there. So yeah, if you can manage it, that'll definitely be helpful. And then yeah, watch the videos, see what you like.
Thank you so much.